What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, Week 4's Thursday night showdown between the Cowboys and Giants. This one, we kind of got some very interesting primetime games this season between the Cowboys and Giants last year. There were some pretty rough games if you were a Giants fan. One game had Daniel Jones, one game did not. Both games, Dallas dropped over 40 points, I believe. Week 1 was a slaughter. This one, starting it off, CeeDee Lamb, the most expensive player on DraftKings on Fanduel, drops down. He's third. So if you like CeeDee Lamb, Fanduel might be the place to take him. Still on DraftKings, I think he's just perfectly priced, right? The Giants are missing 2 starting corners, and their corners are already bad as is, so missing 2 of them is just not helping. Obviously, we haven't seen CeeDee Lamb and Dak have a really good connection so far this season. Really underperformed it as far as those two combined. This is a very good bounce-back opportunity where you have a division game, not just a kind of a throwaway game, which no game really is, but, I mean, division games are very important. Usually teams that are leading the division usually make the playoffs. So in this one, you have a Dallas team that really needs to turn around, and this is one game to turn around. They have a tough schedule coming up, so they really need to get on the same page and build some chemistry offensively and be able to stop teams defensively, because this Dallas defense, maybe without Dan Quinn, is the issue. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb at this price point, I love him. I think he's, if not the best play, then the second best play on this slate. It's just a great matchup for him. And I really think this is where he shines, right? Going back to first few years of CeeDee Lamb, he's averaging 90 yards a game against the Giants, kind of averaging 6.5 receptions and half a touchdown. So you're looking at somewhere around, 20 points a game CeeDee Lamb has averaged against the Giants. And that's when some of the Giants teams had a little better secondary. This one is pretty bad. But going off that is opponent Malik Neighbors, second most expensive on DraftKings, second most expensive on FanDuel. So if you like CeeDee, take him at FanDuel. You get him cheaper than Neighbors. If you like Neighbors over CeeDee, you get him cheaper on DraftKings. So Dallas going to miss one of their corners. Carson, he's going to be out. Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson both tied with 5 red zone targets, averaging 12 targets a game right now. He's at 37 through 3, and he's had some tough opponents. Obviously, he's exceeded my expectations. I kind of thought he was going to fit into the Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London type of numbers, but he's not. He's getting the ball and he's making his stats just pop because he's that talented. In this matchup, you're not seeing the same Dallas defense that we're used to seeing. And like I said, it could be Dan Quinn. It just could be personnel. Could be a locker room issue, something. But something's going up to where Dallas's defense doesn't look good. Now, they played the pass fairly well this season. It's been the run that's been terrible. But Malik Neighbors, he was going to see Carson the most, so now I do not know off the top of my head who's filling in, but it's going to be the 5th string, I guess, corner. So Malik Neighbors, he's not going to see him the entire game, right? You still have 2 other good corners in Diggs and Lewis, I believe, are the other 2. So it's not like Malik Neighbors lines up 100% on one side of the ball. He doesn't, but I think the majority of it, I think it was 45% plus, was against Carson, so that's a huge advantage for him. And then Dak, 3rd most expensive on DraftKings, most expensive on FanDuel. This one is a Dak Prescott shine, right? The run game has not been the same. Like, we kind of expected it with who they had, but against this New York Giants secondary, I'm not concerned about the run game at all. I love the pass game. That's where I want to target out of this game. Dak is 12-2 in his career against the Giants, averaging 263 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns a game. He's owned the Giants, especially the last few games. If you've looked, they've played very, very good against Giants. Some games he hasn't had to do much. They ran the ball good, but with the way Zeke, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, now Dalvin Cook's going to be in the mix, it's just not the best. So I want to target the pass game rather than the run. Daniel Jones just has never really put up a significant number against the Dallas defense. I still like the Dallas defense. I think they could get to someone like Daniel Jones. The only hope out of Daniel Jones is he gets the rushing upside, which we saw Lamar and Derrick Henry combined for over 230 rushing yards last week. Maybe you get some, not exact, right? Not exact, but you get some similarities out of Daniel Jones and Devin Singletary. But for the price point, I'd rather just tackle Devin Singletary for $1,200 cheaper on DraftKings and $1,000 cheaper on Fanduel. Would rather just get Singletary than pay for Daniel Jones, because you're needing at least two of these guys up here of CD Prescott, CD Neighbors, Dak Neighbors, right? Like you're wanting two out of these three, and it's very hard to get Daniel Jones in there as well. So I'd rather go Devin Singletary in this one. Jake Ferguson, 7,000 on DraftKings, 9,500 on FanDuel. So kind of a discount if you see some other names. Wandell's 10,000, Zeke's 11,500. He's kind of cheap on FanDuel, so I don't mind it as much. It's just a matchup in general for this game I don't love. Now, maybe because the Giants' secondary is so banged up, he gets a little more opportunities because they're trying to compensate for that. But as of right now, I just don't love it. I think I'm going to be lower. Dallas runs a lot of two tight end formations. Shoemaker gets out there sometimes. But yeah, if we're talking just strict matchup, I'd rather get away from Jake Ferguson. But like I said, because of the injuries with the Giants secondary, I could see a situation where Ferguson has a really good game because of the overcompensation to the wide receivers, right? And one of those guys is Brandon Cooks, who's $200 cheaper than Ferguson on DraftKings, but he is more expensive on FanDuel. I mentioned when talking to CeeDee Lamb of not only how good CeeDee Lamb is, but the matchup. Brandon Cooks falls right in there too. A guy that really hasn't had a shine yet with Dak, and hopefully we're going to see it soon. So just for the price point, especially on DraftKings, FanDuel, you can make that argument, and I'd be okay with it for the price of being too expensive. But on DraftKings, I think it's a really good price. Rico Dowdle on DraftKings is too expensive to me versus FanDuel is $8,000. Like, that is crazy. The drop off, especially between Zeke and Dowdle, is $3,500 on FanDuel, but DraftKings has a $200 difference where Dowdle is more expensive. So if I'm playing DraftKings, I want to target Zeke more. If I'm playing FanDuel, I want to target Dowdle more. That's just how the prices line up right now. I still think there's touchdown upside for both, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to pick Zeke. Just so far through 3 weeks, he's gotten the majority of the running back red zone work, so I'm going to target that guy that gets his red zone running back work versus the in between the 20s, which isn't bad, but Zeke's still going to get some carries, maybe a few targets, but in the red zone, Zeke's probably going to be the guy they go upon. And then Jalen Tolbert, yeah, kind of expensive on DraftKings. Same thing. I just like Jalen Tolbert in this matchup. I like all Dallas's wide receivers in this matchup. But on FanDuel, 8,000, it's a very solid price for Jalen Tolbert. He's a big touchdown upside guy. Really not going to, at this point of where he's at with the team, he's not going to be a guy that gets, 10 targets, stuff like that. He's going to be a big 50-50 ball type of guy, someone you want on, a long pass, third down, 50-50. That's kind of where you want Jalen Tolbert. So at FanDuel, I really love his price point. DraftKings, I just like the matchup for him rather than the price. Just the matchup's really good. And then the Cowboys defense at 5,400 DraftKings, 9,000 FanDuel. Daniel Jones, like I mentioned, has not performed well against the Cowboys. Now, if the Cowboys stop the run, are they going to force Daniel Jones to make really good throws to Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson? Maybe, but I would depend on Dallas' secondary more than their run defense. This is also a matchup that Micah Parsons has played very well against the Giants, so I love that matchup there. It's just a turnover upside. Giants are like a top 12 team, I think, in turnover per drive, so I really want to target that one. Both kickers, it's Showdown. Both kickers are always mentionable. I'm not gonna pick a side. I'm gonna pick Aubrey. Really, like if someone told me I had to pick a kicker, I'd pick Aubrey. But I'm probably gonna have split ownership if I'm doing 150s. Wendell Robinson mentioned he's 10,000 on FanDuel. I still love it, but he's very expensive on FanDuel. If I like Wandell, I like the DraftKings price of Wandell, but the matchup with him is good. He's just getting a lot of targets, a lot of red zone work, like I mentioned with Malik Neighbors. They both have 5 red zone targets, so the touchdown upside is there. That's who they're trying to get the ball to, is Wandell or Malik Neighbors. So I really like those two in this matchup. Yeah, that FanDuel price is up there though. Turpin is he just does not get on the field as much as a receiver for me to like him. Obviously has the special teams upside, but the price point on, especially on DraftKings, 4,000 is just too much for a guy that gets in the 5th most at wide receiver. Jalen Brooks gets more snaps than Turpin, so I'd rather pay 2,000 less on DraftKings and 1,500 less on FanDuel for Brooks than Turpin. If he beats me, he beats me. I just don't want to take that risk. The Giants defense, now this one is tricky, but I have them as a fade. I just don't think their secondary is going to be able to stop Dallas. I'll continue to say this all season. I love the Giants defensive line. I love who they're sending at opposing quarterbacks. It's deadly. If Thibodeau can get his stuff together, that trio is disgusting for the Giants, and they just got to build, other pieces, especially in the secondary, around those 3. Hopefully Thibodeau, just in this game doesn't play good, but overall, that is there. I just don't trust their secondary to really keep Dallas under, 20 points in this game. Darius Slayton, this one is one to watch for. He's probably the only fantasy impactful player with an injury looming. He's had some limited practices. So if Darius Slayton does not go, we get a value in Jalen Hyatt here, who's 600 on DraftKings, 5,500 on FanDuel. So you're getting almost a minimum player salary for a guy that's going to get in on 3rd wide receiver sets. We saw it last year. I'll see it again this year. Other than that, we're looking at Tyrone Tracy at 2,800 DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. I like his receiving upside. I mentioned of how bad Dallas is. They are the worst team as of right now against the run. And you're thinking, man, maybe that Alvin Kamara game was a fluke. No, Derrick Henry did it. Lamar Jackson did it, right? So the running back upside for players facing Dallas is there, and getting someone that's, almost 6,000 cheaper on DraftKings and on FanDuel, same thing, almost 6,000. So I kind of like him for the RB2 work. Jalen Brooks, like I mentioned, the Dallas wide receivers, he gets in the 4th most. He's got a decent amount of snaps for him too as well, so that's kind of the last guy that I'm really looking at. I don't want to take a shot on Theo Johnson or Daniel Bellinger. Theo Johnson gets the snaps, but Daniel Bellinger has looked better when he gets his targets, so I'm not going to take a chance on either one of those guys. I'm not going to go further down for Deuce Vaughn when you have Dalvin Cook in the mix. I imagine one of them is going to be benched. I don't think Dallas is going to run 4 running backs, but never say never. Luke Schoonmaker is another name that I'll throw out there. I mentioned earlier Dallas likes to run 2 tight end sets, and we've seen a lot of situations where that tight end 2 gets a touchdown over the tight end 1, so kind of running into that. But Jalen Hyatt is probably the cheapest kind of target I'm looking at, and that's only if Darius Slayton is out. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have more content going out throughout the week for the main slate. I know I was not able to post the first look and quarterback, but those videos will come out, not the first look, but the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end in a very injured week that it's looking like we're going to have. So that content will be coming out. I promise you guys that, and I will see you in the next one.